ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another episode of the New ID podcast, brought to you by Nuanced and proudly supported by United in Diversity. I'm joined for this very special series by our exclusive partner, our mental health expert, James Abraham, CEO of MindRight. Now, you may be thinking, what are you talking about? Let me tell you. I had so many fascinating conversations with James during the time that he was here delivering workshops on all sorts of things. And I found so much value in what he had to share in those conversations. So I had to find a way to make it widely available. And this is what we landed on. A series aptly named nuMind.
Talk to my man James real quick. James, is there another topic you'd like to cover today?
Toxic masculinity.
Talk to me. I went into a bit of a rabbit hole earlier today, man. But I will share that I watched a few interesting videos that did kind of have a connection to what you were saying earlier, which is there's no right way. And there's definitely no need to actually like make it a man-woman thing. And it's probably pretty obvious that one of the videos was Sir Jordan Peterson. I don't know why I just Sir'd him. Please, let's take that off. I don't think he has been knighted yet. But and once again, I bet you there's gonna be someone watching this going, "Ugh," you know what I mean? And it's like I don't know the whole man's life, but I can tell you from the stuff I've seen, I resonate a lot with some of the points, and I can point to that. Don't ask me nothing about his whole life. But the man knows what he's talking about when he tries to identify, cool, what is exactly, if they were to define something like toxic masculinity, is there any way you could really differentiate it between the genders, for example?
I think today, because women are now in similar positions to men, I think they exhibit similar traits of toxic masculinity.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because their role models were the men who held those positions before that. Right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I think the other thing that, when you put a disclaimer and say that you like Jordan Peterson, I think there's also that fear that everything's so polarizing now.
Exactly.
You have to be one or the other. Oh,
Right.
You like Jordan Peterson, that means you love him.
Yeah.
Oh,
you like LeBron, you can't like Jordan. Like, bro.
Yeah.
Legend.
So it's very polarizing, right? And I think so much of society is as you've got, it's nuanced.
That's right.
So,
it is nuanced.
So I kind of feel like this ideology that overlaps so heavily, the ideology being that, you're a man, so you have toxic masculinity, but you're a woman, you can't be toxic. You don't have toxic masculinity. No, I think you can. And, there are traits of toxic masculinity, and things like aggression, physical and mental toughness, emotional insensitivity, self-sufficiency, discrimination. These are things that are traits of toxic masculinity. But I'm certain that if you're listening to this, I'm certain you could identify females in your life who share these traits.
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
And I say this because, look, I will just use my own examples, right? Like, you tell me you don't know women with anger issues, right? You've never seen road rage from a woman. That's aggression. That's toxic masculinity. You've never seen a woman be emotionally insensitive, right? No, they exist. I've seen disabled people, total a-holes.
Yeah.
Just because they're disabled don't make them all
That's right.
saints. Like, that's not how it works. You can still be an unkind person.
Yeah. I'm totally with that. And you make a good point, because I feel like I know so many times I raise points like this to females I talk to, brilliant people I either work with, in the creative space with, or something, and I try and model what I believe to be good, like male. And I have to think about this. That's the other thing. I have to, as a male, and let's just talk about it as a black male. Like I have those two filters that I have to go through. Am I being threatening? Am I being like overbearing? Am I being like weird or whatever? Right? Like I have to behave on a moment by moment basis with that in mind. But I know that from the other side, from females I do talk to, a lot of times you bring up these points and they may be valid points, and I hope the discussion can continue. But more often than not, it's, hey, you don't understand what it's like.
Yeah.
So to all those things, for example, it's like, yeah, cool. I did have road rage that one time, but you don't understand the day I had because of these other things with the patriarchy or whatever. And it's like, I respect the person I'm talking to. I respect the work they do and and whatever else. But when they're telling me that and they're like, yo, but there was this like one man, and I was like, I've had it. And I'm like, cool, that sounded like a really horrible person who was actually being really weird on the road.
Yeah.
Definitely does not paint us all a certain way. And in fact, what you've shared may actually be an example of like the way you swung the other way doesn't then paint like your side in a good light either. So I hope that what we can do with conversations like this is encourage people to share their story in terms of speak your truth. That's fair, but please do listen to the other side. I feel like we've mentioned women in this podcast about men's mental health and toxic masculinity where relevant.
Yeah.
But I feel like some people may come away from that going, they spent the whole time talking about women. Not even the whole time, but you know what I mean? Like they reference women so much. I don't think there was that much about, so it's just, I hope
think
we can encourage discussion.
Yeah, because I think the like this conversation from being a more inclusive society, like I think we can all acknowledge the disparity for opportunities for women in leadership positions, right? And
Yeah.
so the only way that can change is when men take on these positions of decision making and go, no, we have to make a more inclusive workforce, for example. Or it's a I don't know why a thumbs up came up there suddenly.
But
Almost
you spitting fire. I don't know who that was or where that came from, but they liked what you were saying.
Yeah. So just like in that moment where a guy has to, because let's just pretend in that moment that in this example, a man is in a leadership position and in a
Right.
position to influence change, and he
Yeah.
does that because it's incumbent upon him to be the force for change, and that's why we have allies. In these examples, these are how women can be allies to men's mental health, right?
I like that.
Because yeah, men can be allies to other men for men's mental health, but for women to help men talk about these things,
Yes.
it helps that they say they're encouraging. Hey, I'm not saying you're weak, but this is how seeing a psychologist might help you,
Facts.
and it'll make you stronger. Can you try for me, please? Right? Or something like that. Because the ally in men's mental health has got to be the other half of the population. So it isn't about, oh yeah, this is a topic on men's mental health, and so we are only talking about what men can do. That's part of the problem.
Yeah.
If we're talking about men's mental health and we only say men have to be responsible for their own mental health, then we're ignoring decades upon decades of cultural norms where men are just supposed to be stoic and strong.
Yeah.
And are not supposed to have emotions, but we're all still human beings. Our brains are all the same, or similar. Not same, the similar, right?
Yeah.
So we have to be in a society that acknowledges everyone's got a role to play.
Oh, I like that.
It's not, yes, men have a role to play. Of course we do, right? In terms of taking care of ourselves. But this is the role women can play as well in helping men, because that's the other thing, right? Men feel so ashamed when they have to talk about these things.
Yeah.
Right? If I had to, talk, when I was growing up as a teenager, and if I had to talk about a breakup or something, it's almost like, hey, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, right? Come on, man, as you say, man up.
Facts.
I feel like
And
shit now.
you're gonna get rejected anyway, man. Like, yeah, it's a numbers game. Do the thing.
Yeah,
Bruh.
yeah. You know, and so I think you downplay. It's almost like downplaying that all of those things are toxic
Yeah. Right.
because you're pretending like they don't exist. That's emotional insensitivity.
True.
You know, so I think with men's mental health, everyone's got a role to play, including women, about how to create a more inclusive society so that men feel like it's safe enough to go talk about it. Because that's the fear, right?
Yeah.
If we come from a really traditional background,
Mhm.
where we're still very ingrained with our traditions,
Right.
um, if you're a guy, would you dare tell your wife how you feel?
Nah.
You
We
know?
don't do that around here.
No, imagine, honey, look, I feel like we can do more for our child. What do you mean
Yeah,
feel?
it doesn't even process, bro.
Yeah,
Let me
like
not even get let me not get started.
don't
It
don't
doesn't
don't,
even process.
don't talk to me about raising our child. I raise our child. You go to work, bring home that bacon. And I don't want to stereotype because I'm not saying all are like that, but we've got so much tradition ingrained.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, this is a conversation for a different day, but when we try and break tradition, does that mean we don't love our culture?
I
You
hope
know?
that's on the list. That's
Yeah.
nice.
So it is one of those things where, and a lot of times the keeping up of culture, men and women both have roles to play in keeping up of that. And
Right.
sometimes those roles that they play are gender assigned roles. Because listen, if you want the family to stay together, that is the woman's job. If your family breaks apart, it is the woman's fault. No, it could be the guy's fault too,
Fact.
right?
But that sounds so
If,
familiar. And like
if,
you
if,
mentioned.
if your family doesn't have enough food, that's
Yeah.
the guy's fault now. His job
Right.
was to be the provider.
That's right.
So then what happens when you break that? And then the guy, for example, is in a household where now the woman makes more money. Have you no shame? Your wife makes more money than you,
The horror.
you know? And again, this eats into the guy if they don't have a good household. And look, it's not always the case, right? There are, you know, people in very good households where they're very comfortable. They're like, yeah, and I'm damn proud of my wife for bringing home that bacon. And the wife may be just as affirming and go, yes, but look at how he maintains the house. Look at our kids. Look at, they're on schedule all the time. He's on top of everything. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
You're breaking your culture. Some people may feel, but you're not. These are gender assigned roles, and sometimes just breaking out of those things is breaking away from the culture and the tradition. And that's not really the case. You're breaking away from the bad stuff. It was also cultural and traditional to marry into the family. And we learned that's not the way to do things. If you want your bloodline to carry on.
That's right. That's right. The things we learn.
So this is one of those things where you have to be okay with breaking some of those traditions because you want to improve this generation from the previous generation. You want to keep growing. So that masculinity isn't confined to a gender. The toxicity of toxic masculinity is not confined to a gender. It's very circumstantial, I think, in today's world.
Yeah.
You know, depending how what you're looking at, what the context is you're looking at it from. But we all have a role to play in it, in getting rid of it.
That's excellent. Do you mind if we give toxic masculinity a whole episode? Because I feel like there's so much more to discuss. I know the conversations I have with some of the younger female friends, who who actually like have completely different thoughts. But yeah, please make sure you comment below your thoughts, especially on toxic masculinity. Because I know where they like their lens, their worldview. I get it, and I can understand if I'd never seen anything different, if I was born here and like this is the culture, it's still screwing us over, and I'm like,
yeah,
I see. Okay, I have to take myself out of my own experience to place myself in their shoes to even begin to understand. And I think there's so much that can actually guide the conversation, because we could go and talk about this all day, you and I, because there's so many little things I resonate with what you said. It's not just gender specific, but then I would still be curious, hey, what can we leave our young men with in terms of what an individual can do? Maybe, if I may take from your session when you were here, work on yourself. Work on the only thing you can control, which is you. Do the work on you, build yourself up, and essentially you as an individual will be a better contributor to the wider society if you start by focusing on you and what you can do, and maintaining your well-being. I don't know if I'm mixing up analogies here, but it reminds me of the mask that drops in planes.
Yeah.
You have to put your own one on first
Yeah.
before you can help even your own children, because there's no way you're going to help them if you have lost all your breath. So it's literally just, if you feel lost, because it's very easy to feel lost in this hectic world.
Yeah.
Start by working on you. It's super rewarding. The people you care about tend to notice those things. It's very fulfilling to start feeling like you add value and you contribute. So if there's anything the optimist can potentially leave you with, is work on you. Try and stress less about what other people are doing. And I may be winding down here a little bit, but I'm gonna throw back to you. Any final thoughts before we wrap up?
I think the one thing I definitely want to raise is with men's mental health is, I cited some numbers in the beginning, and maybe it's a good way to cap today's session. The over men reported over 60% in a survey. They found that over 60% of the issues, 32% on work pressure and 31%, I believe it was, on financial issues, that was the cause of stress or poor men's mental health. And it was the inability for a guy, because they have been fit into a position where they're the provider. So if the provider is dealing with a lot of stress from work, or if the provider cannot bring home enough money, or they're dealing with financial issues, all of these things create a maddening amount of stress. And I don't think men truly appreciate how bad stress can get inside the body, and you're never going. I think that same study also found that only 20% men reported, I can't remember what the statistic was, unfortunately, but men reported that the only time they'd ever have themselves checked out is if it was something serious like a stroke or a heart attack.
Sounds like us, my guy.
And that's too late.
Yeah.
And I wanted to cap this off because you gave a really nice analogy that you got to take care of yourself. You got to work on yourself. And if you can't do it for yourself, then do it for your kids, do it for your loved ones.
That's right.
Because when I say do it for your kids, do it for your loved ones, it means you got to work on yourself.
Yep.
So that your kids have a dad.
Yep.
So that your partner gets to grow old with you. Right. So with men's, and I cannot stress enough how detrimental stress, because men accept it as, oh, it's part of being a man. Oh, well, I've got to worry about the money. Well, this is a man problem. No, it's a person problem. I'm hoping throughout this episode people have appreciated that more and more. It's got to be a collective thing.
Yeah.
Not an individual thing.
Yeah.
And the detriment that stress can really bring. And we've gotten to the stage now we accept it. Why you look so stressed? Just part of life. No, stress is not a part of your life. You're not supposed to be that stressed.
True.
Your body will begin to fail internally. And I don't want to get too technical about your how the nervous system will fail you, and how the executive function shuts down when you're stressed. I don't want to go down the sympathetic, parasympathetic nervous system and all of those things. But the most important thing to take away from all of this is that when you have chronic stress, when you constantly feel stress, your body will begin to fail. And waiting for a stroke is like trying to evacuate the town when the volcano erupts. It's too late.
Yeah.
You're not going to get people out in time. If you see that the volcano, the lava is rising, you need to start like getting checks done.
Yeah.
It's no check is necessary when it's already exploded.
Literally.
Yeah. We're not fixing. There's no checks here. Now we're solving a problem of the volcano has erupted.
That's right.
That's an
Deep.
easy way to look at stress. You've got to look out for yourself. Go speak to someone. It doesn't matter who, someone you trust, someone you can be vulnerable with. There is so much strength in vulnerability. And I think that's the one thing I want to leave with for men, especially. Like, it's not okay that you're dealing with work pressure and you think that's part of your life. And nor is it okay that you're dealing with financial burdens and you think that's supposed to be a norm. And I say this, look, whether it's a man or a woman, I think it applies to both, because I know many women who deal with the same stuff. You know, but for the purpose of this episode, I want to focus on men's mental health, and you know, and men are less likely, unfortunately, to go get help. Women have this part so much better than we do, where they know how to reach out for help, or at least a lot of them do. I don't want to say all, right? But they do. And men, well, we just there's one of the toxic traits is stoicism. Where you just, nothing should bother me. I should keep a stone face. No, you can't be bothered. It's okay. There's nothing wrong with being bothered. So, yeah. Or I'd say I just want to leave with, don't wait till it's too late, because there's so many people who lose very important male role models, and in a world where we're missing so many good, relatable role models, we need as many of them as possible. And not taking care of yourself deprives the world of your beauty. So I'll leave it.
I almost don't want to say anything after that, man. But that really resonated. Just to put a stamp on that whole concept, I feel like we're going to have a whole conversation for the go-getters, entrepreneurship, because we know there's certain things when you're quote unquote grinding for a result. Yet I have no idea how to turn off afterwards. And guess what? To your point, wifey is the only one who tends to see the part where she's like, that was anxiety, my guy. I'm like, is that what that is? I had so many questions. I didn't feel confident, comfortable, like I had, everything under control. So it's been really insightful. Like you said, just the fact that wifey's done so much, like looking into it and all that, reflecting, talking, all of that. She can then drop nuggets when I have no idea what I'm faced with, but I've just been taught to keep going. And I feel like I do it very well until it slaps you in the face, and you either have to physically rest or mentally rest. And I don't know how to do that. So I'm sure I'm not the only one. But yeah, you were dropping dimes as per usual, my friend. I should wrap up by saying this is not going to be the last, like you said. You're not quite, you are a special guest, but we've got much more in store for listeners. With that being said, please let us know your thoughts, because I feel like I get to sit here and ask him all my questions that I've been at home thinking about, or I'm like, oh, I can't wait till I ask James this. If you have a burning question, if you have a burning opinion, if potentially you and I have had a conversation at work about what is a good man so I can teach my son, and you maybe thought differently to what we talked about today, I really hope to hear from you. And guys, I like the idea of discussing these things. I'm a person who doesn't feel like I'm always right, and therefore I'm always willing to listen. But I hope that the other side, the other person I am conversing with, allows me the same and affords me the same, because I have no idea what they've gone through, and they have no idea what I've gone through. So this conversation is something that I hope can continue in community and in our workplaces and so on. But without going into it too much, thank you so much for tuning in to the nuMind podcast. Please like, share, subscribe, comment, because I genuinely want to know. I know the toxic masculinity is a hot point, and I, as a person who is very focused on bringing up our youth with the right values and the right perspectives, or at least just an open mind. I want to learn. So please chat to us. James, it's been a pleasure. Love your work as always. All right. Next time, you don't have to do the pull-ups. The guns are still showing, my guy.
Hey.
Can't take you no damn place. You do know my workmates watch this, right? Like, come on,
All
bro.
right, man. Thanks for having me. Thank you for having me as always.
We'll talk soon, yeah?
Take care, man.
Peace out.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the New ID podcast, where we tell stories from the community. We can't do any of this without your support, and we can't thank you enough. But to help us grow, please like, comment, and subscribe, and share it with everyone you know. Tune in next time for another incredible story from the community.